I'm going to mention three numbers here, and then I'm going to talk about how they go together. And chances are you'll be ahead of me on this, and you'll get to the conclusion before I finish talking. But here we go. So the three numbers I'm going to mention are 15 million, 2.5, and 30 to 40 million. Okay, what do these numbers mean, and what's the point of what I'm saying here? 15 million. That's the number of unoccupied housing units in the United States. That's that are apartments, houses, housing units that are not occupied. No one's living in them. They're unused, need to be occupied, not doing anything. 2.5. That is today's average household size in the United States. 30 to 40 million. That's the range of projections of how much the population is going to grow in the United States before it's all done growing and the population levels off and then begins to decline, which will happen sometime over the next several decades. So, okay, here we go. 15 million, 2.5, 30 to 40 million. What that's showing is that we already are at the point now where there is enough unoccupied housing in the United States to cover all future projected population growth. That range, 30 to 40 million. If you take that 15 million, you multiply it by the average household size of 2.5, and you look at the projections of population growth from low end to high end, we see we already have enough housing in the United States forever, basically to cover all future population growth until the population starts declining again. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that there's no more need for building houses. People move from place to place. Places that had fewer people receive internal or external immigration from other places. Houses need to be rebuilt from time to time. But what that tells us is that there is no need for any further net land development. Theoretically, for every new residential development, anytime from now on, some other unused development, unused housing units where people have moved out of, could be turned over to conservation, restored to ponds, fields, forest land, turned into parks, whatever, riverside. We've already passed the point of peak land development in the United States. It's already done. It's already in our past. All future projected growth can be housed by what we have already developed, even what we've already built, though of course building will continue for the reasons I mentioned before. We are entering a time in history, one country at a time, and the United States is getting to the point where some countries have already been for decades, where we are past the peak of the need for growth. There's no more need for further land development, no more need to develop more sources of food, more sources of energy. Many large economies around the world, some of the largest economies around the world, are already using less and less oil year by year. That includes the European Union, that includes China, that includes Mexico, Japan, using, maybe I'm wrong on China, I'd have to look into that, but I was surprised by how many large economies, even ones where there still is some population growth, but the use of oil is declining year after year because of efficiencies and more efficient sources of energy. There are countries that have been seeing population decline for in some cases decades now. The United States is getting there. The world population will be peaking and leveling off and even declining before the century is over. So this whole idea of a continual need for expansion, always needing more sources of food, more sources of energy, more land to be developed for industry and for housing, that phase of human history is coming to an end. And in parts of the world, it has already come to an end. In parts of the world, like in the United States, we have already passed the peak of our providing for our housing needs. We've already passed the peak of providing for our food needs. Maybe not in the United States, but in a lot of countries that's absolutely the case. We've already passed the peak of needing more and more growth in energy availability. So very interesting, the kind of world that we're moving into. I think there's going to be a lot of ideas that are going to change, and are going to change for the better. A lot of the bad ideas that we've had, based around the idea of scarcity, based around the idea of having too many people, based around the ideas of not having enough resources for everybody, those things are going to come to an end. Those phenomena will come to an end. That whole paradigm is coming to an end. And thankfully, we have been able to provide for people so far. By no means perfectly. There's terrible inequality of the distribution of resources, but in spite of that, decade after decade, disease is dropping, life expectancies are rising, food security is rising all around the world. And as we come to the peak of population growth and population growth levels off, we're going to enter an entirely new paradigm of how we see the world politically, how we see the world scientifically, what our focuses will turn to. Imagine a world where we are not worried about scarcity, where we've already solved the scarcity problem, and we have other things to look forward to, other challenges to meet. Prolonging life expectancy, providing better and better medical care, conservation, restoring degraded environments, restoring animal populations, plant populations, turning the world into a garden where we can all live pleasantly, live very long lives in pleasantness. I think that's the ideal of where human focus is going to go as our sciences get more and more developed, and scarcity and the fear of scarcity goes into our distant past. Well, please let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. I promise I will read them and respond, and I look forward to talking to you again later. Bye for now.